Welcome to Nightmare Narratives, where the stories will haunt your dreams and linger in the shadows. Tonight, we bring you two terrifying paranormal stories guaranteed to keep you up at night. Perfect for those seeking a chilling bedtime experience or a sleepless night of suspense. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss a nightmarish tale. And if you're enjoying the content, hit like to show your support. As you listen, let us know in the comments which story chilled you to the bone. Now, dim the lights, close your eyes, and let the darkness take over. It started with a creak, just a whisper of sound in the stillness of my new apartment. I had moved in 2 weeks earlier, thrilled to finally have a place of my own. The rent was suspiciously low, but the landlord chalked it up to the building's age. That first night, I laughed off the groaning pipes and settling floorboards, attributing them to the quirks of a 100-year-old building. But the laughter didn't last long. On the second night, as I lay in bed scrolling through my phone, I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps in the hallway. They were soft but deliberate, pacing just outside my door. My heart raced as I held my breath, straining to listen. I lived alone, and the thought of an intruder sent a chill down my spine. Grabbing the closest thing to a weapon, a heavy lamp from my nightstand, I crept toward the door. The footsteps stopped as soon as my feet hit the floor. I swung the door open, expecting to confront someone, but the hallway was empty. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. I checked every corner of the apartment, even under the bed and inside the closet. Nothing. The days that followed were worse. Shadows darted across my peripheral vision, vanishing the moment I turned my head. Objects moved from where I left them. Keys on the counter, a book on the coffee table. At first, I blamed myself for being forgetful, but the incidents grew too frequent to dismiss. One night, as I lay in bed, my eyes heavy with exhaustion, I heard it again, the footsteps. This time, they weren't in the hallway. They were inside my bedroom. The sound of bare feet on hardwood crept closer and closer. I froze, unable to move, my breath caught in my throat. Suddenly, the bed dipped as if someone had just sat down beside me. I bolted upright, flicking on the bedside lamp, and screamed. There was no one there, but the feeling of weight lingered, a cold indentation on the mattress that I couldn't explain. By the end of the first month, I was terrified to be in my own home. I confided in a friend, Lisa, who was more curious than concerned. "You're probably just stressed," she said, brushing it off. "Old buildings make weird noises. Let me come over and see for myself." Lisa stayed over the following weekend. She brought sage and crystals, joking about performing an exorcism. We spent the evening drinking wine and laughing, but when midnight struck, the mood shifted. It was subtle at first, a drop in temperature that made us both reach for blankets. Then came the whispers. At first, I thought it was the wind. The windows rattled slightly, and I assumed a draft had found its way inside. But Lisa's face turned pale as she looked toward the hallway. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. I nodded, my stomach tightening. The whispers grew louder, forming words that neither of us could understand. They seemed to echo from everywhere and nowhere at once. Lisa grabbed my arm. "We're leaving. Now." We bolted for the door, but as I reached for the knob, it wouldn't turn. It felt as if someone was holding it from the other side. I yanked and pulled, my desperation mounting, but it wouldn't budge. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the whispers turned into a guttural growl. Lisa screamed, and I turned to see her staring at the end of the hallway. A figure stood there, shrouded in shadow, its shape barely human. Its head tilted unnaturally as if it were studying us. I felt paralyzed, unable to look away. The figure took a step forward, and then another. Each step was deliberate, its feet making no sound against the floor. I slammed my fist against the door, shouting for help, for anyone, anything. The lights flickered one last time before plunging us into darkness. When the power returned seconds later, the figure was gone. The door swung open easily, and we stumbled out into the hallway of the building, gasping for air. Lisa refused to come back, and I didn't blame her. She begged me to move out, but I couldn't afford to break the lease. I started sleeping with every light on, though it made little difference. The activity escalated. The growls turned into screams in the dead of night. The shadow appeared more frequently, always lurking at the edge of the room, vanishing as soon as I acknowledged it. One night, I woke up to find scratches on my arms, thin, precise lines as if drawn by sharp nails. I bought cameras and set them up around the apartment, desperate for proof that I wasn't losing my mind. The footage only deepened the horror. Doors opened and closed by themselves. The shadow moved across the walls, growing darker and more defined with each passing night. And then there was the final recording. In it, I'm sleeping in bed. The camera is aimed at me, capturing everything. Around 3 a.m., the shadow appears in the corner of the room. It doesn't stay there. It moves toward the bed, stopping inches from my face. For a moment, it seems to lean over me, as if whispering something I can't hear. Then slowly, it turns toward the camera. 2 red eyes glint in the darkness, and then the screen goes black. I moved out the next morning, leaving everything behind. The landlord didn't seem surprised when I handed in the keys. "Another one bites the dust," he muttered under his breath. When I pressed him, he finally admitted that the previous tenants had all broken their leases early, citing disturbances. I've never gone back. But sometimes, in the dead of night, I hear those whispers again. They're faint, almost inaudible, but they're there. And I can't help but wonder if I left that apartment, or if part of it came with me. I think I was followed home by something from the woods. Okay, so I need to get this off my chest because I haven't been able to sleep for days, and I'm starting to think I'm going crazy. This happened last weekend when I went camping with a couple of friends. We picked a spot way off the beaten path, no cell service, no nearby campers, just us and the woods. The first night was normal. We had a fire going, shared a few beers, and laughed at old stories. Around midnight, we all crawled into our tents. The forest was eerily quiet, but I figured it was just because we were deep enough in that the usual sounds of the world couldn't reach us. The second night, though, that's when things got weird. We'd spent the day hiking and were exhausted by the time we got back to camp. As the sun set, I noticed the quiet again, but this time it felt heavier, like the silence was pressing in on us. I didn't say anything, not wanting to freak everyone out. We went to bed early, but I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I heard something outside my tent. At first, I thought it was one of my friends getting up to pee, but then I realized the sound was wrong. It wasn't footsteps. It was more like shuffling, like something dragging across the ground. I froze, straining to listen. The sound moved closer, stopping just outside my tent. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure whatever it was could hear it. Then I heard a soft, rhythmic tapping. It sounded like someone running their fingers along the fabric of my tent, tracing shapes. I wanted to call out to my friends, but my throat felt like it was glued shut. After what felt like hours, the sound stopped. I stayed awake until dawn, clutching my flashlight, but when I finally crawled out of the tent, everything looked normal. I asked my friends if they'd heard anything, but they both shook their heads. One even joked that I'd had too much beer the night before. We packed up and left that afternoon, but the feeling of being watched didn't leave me. I brushed it off as paranoia until I got home. That night, I was lying in bed when I heard it again, the shuffling. But this time, it was outside my bedroom window. I live on the 3rd floor of an apartment building. I sat up, my heart racing, and stared at the window. The blinds were closed, but I could see the faintest shadow moving back and forth. The tapping started again, slow and deliberate, just like it had at the campsite. I grabbed my phone and called my friend, babbling about what was happening. He tried to calm me down, but I could tell he didn't really believe me. I didn't sleep that night. The shadow didn't leave until the sun started to rise. When I finally worked up the courage to check the window, there was nothing there. No marks, no signs that anything had been there at all. Over the past few days, the tapping and shuffling have continued. It's not every night, but often enough that I've started sleeping with the lights on. I've thought about getting cameras, but honestly, I'm scared of what I might see. Has anyone else experienced anything like this? Could it have followed me from the woods? I don't know what to do, but I feel like I'm losing my mind. Please, if you have any advice, let me know. Thank you for joining us tonight on Nightmare Narratives. If these stories sent shivers down your spine, don't forget to like the video and share it with others who crave the thrill of the unknown. Make sure you're subscribed with the bell turned on so you never miss another chilling tale. And before you drift off into uneasy sleep, let us know in the comments which story haunted you the most. Until next time, sweet dreams, if you can sleep at all.